Election 2012, the Wall Street Journal special coverage, live from the Democratic National Convention, all week on WSJ Live.
Now, Democrats do have a bit of a challenge. They have to grab some momentum back. There you can see on our Election 2012 coverage, we have really a summary poll data at WSJ.com, and you can see that since mid-August, Mitt Romney has closed the 5-point gap he had with the president. Now they're running dead even. Patrick Egan, New York University's professor of politics and public policy, now joins us again. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, those polls look positive. It suggests that Republicans had a pretty successful convention. Was it successful, and why?
Well, I think it was successful in that it successfully introduced Mitt Romney to the American people, cast him in a pretty positive light, particularly in terms of, shall we say, humanizing him with lots of testimony from folks who had been helped by him throughout his life. It was also a bit of a difficult week for the Republicans, I think, beginning with Hurricane Isaac that cut short the beginning of the convention, and frankly ending with Clint Eastwood, which stepped on the Romney acceptance speech.
How bad was it? I mean, I watched the Clint Eastwood speech, and it struck me it was awkward, but, I don't know. Did people... How big was the impact from that, I guess, is my question.
Well, I think the way to think about the impact for the campaign is the extent to which it overshadowed what was supposed to be the signature event of the night, which was Mitt Romney's speech. And I think the coverage over the weekend following the convention was really dominated by Eastwood instead of Romney's speech itself. Okay.
Now, the big thing that we were talking a little this morning, the Republicans are now testing a new line, "Are you better off?" which echoes Ronald Reagan from the 1980 election. How well is that, or how effective is that line for them, and how really will the Democrats counter it?
You know, potentially it's a very effective line for the Republicans, as we saw in 1980 with Reagan's election. And I think the way that the Republicans win is to remind Americans that the economy is still in terrible shape, to do a compare and contrast. Now, the Democrats' response to that is a little bit nuanced, which is to say, essentially, look, things were really bad in 2008, which I think everybody would agree on, and give us another chance to keep things going. That's a much more difficult message to key off on than a very straightforward question like the Republicans are starting to ask. And so that gives the Democrats a little bit of trouble, a little bit of challenge.
Talk to me about foreign policy. This is another interesting thing you point out, that maybe the Democrats are going to be focusing a bit more on foreign policy than the Republicans.
That's right, and that's a little bit of a role reversal than we've seen in previous years. One thing is that I think if you look at Americans' approval of the presidency right now, the biggest numbers are actually given to Obama's performance on foreign policy. Those numbers tend to be in the 50s or even 60s, depending on the polls you see, compared to his performance on the economy, healthcare, et cetera.
Is this just pulling us out of wars that started by the previous administration? Is it killing Osama bin Laden? What are the reasons for that?
I think the number one thing is actually getting Osama bin Laden. The other piece of it is, no news is good news, and we haven't actually seen much foreign policy news in the headlines as of late, and Americans are responding to that. It'll be, again, what the Democrats are trying to do is broaden the conversation beyond the economy, which obviously is not a good issue for them, and foreign policy is one of the ways to do that.
And of course, John Kerry will be one of the speakers. He of course, has some foreign policy experience. Now, tell us about the unemployment report. That really has the opportunity to make or break this convention. It's coming on Friday, right after the convention closes. Could that make or break the convention for the Democrats?
I think the unemployment report could be the equivalent of the Clint Eastwood speech for the Democrats, in that no matter how good of a week the Democrats have, those numbers are not going to be great. They may be better than we've seen so far, but they're not going to be good, just if past is any predictor of future performance. And so the Democrats actually have to anticipate that and continue to have a message going out of that even when those numbers come through on Friday morning.
Okay, great. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be here.